Have you ever noticed how heavy life feels when you're carrying everybody else's opinion on your back? How you walk into a room and before you even breathe, you're already wondering, do they like me? Do I sound smart enough? Do I look good enough? I know that way because I used to live under it every single day. And let me tell you something. It wasn't until I decided to care less about the noise outside that I could finally hear the music inside. The less I cared about fitting into their box, the freer I became to build my own stage. The less I cared about being perfect, the happier I became with being real. The less I cared about how others defined me, the more I fell in love with the woman I was becoming. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about being careless. I'm talking about being free. Free from the chains of comparison. Free from the prison of approval, free from needing permission to live out loud. Because every time you let someone else's opinion matter more than your peace, you hand over the keys to your joy. And baby, joy is too precious to give away like that. Happiness doesn't come when the world applauds you. Happiness comes when you learn to applaud yourself, when you stand in the mirror and say, I see you, I honor you, I love you. So today I invite you to put down the weight. To care less about being liked and care more about being whole. Care less about chasing validation and care more about protecting your peace. The less you care about the noise, the more space you create for joy. The less you care about what drains you, the more energy you have for what fills you. And the less you care about being everything to everyone, the more you get to be everything to yourself. You know, for a long time, I lived my life like I was on trial. Every room I walked into, I was the defendant, and the jury was everybody around me. Their faces, their words, their reactions decided whether I was enough. And because I was always waiting for their verdict, I never felt free. If they approved, I was happy for a moment. If they didn't, I was crushed for weeks. It was a constant cycle of highs and lows, like I was strapped to an emotional roller coaster that I never bought a ticket for. But let me tell you something I had to learn the hard way. The moment you stop needing approval is the moment you start tasting real happiness. Because approval is a moving target. One day they clap for you, the next day they turn away. And if your joy is tied to that applause, you'll never be steady. You'll live in constant hunger, always chasing a smile, a like, a compliment, a pat on the back. And that's not living, that's begging. I remember standing on a stage early in my career, giving what I thought was the best talk of my life. Most people stood up and clapped, but one man sat with his arms folded, stone-faced, no expression at all. Guess where my attention went? Not to the hundreds smiling, not to the one standing, not to the woman crying in the front row because she felt seen. No, my mind locked onto that one man. I walked off stage doubting myself, wondering what I did wrong. And it hit me, as long as I need everyone's approval, I will never feel my own. That was the day I realized I can't live waiting for people to clap. I have to clap for me. Releasing the need for approval doesn't mean you don't care about people. It doesn't mean you walk around with arrogance. It means you stop trading your peace for their opinion. It means you understand that your value is not up for debate. Whether they approve or not, you are still worthy. Whether they see it or not, you are still enough. Think about it. How many dreams have you postponed because you were waiting for someone to say it was okay? How many times have you watered yourself down because you were afraid of being judged? How often have you silenced your truth because you thought it might make someone uncomfortable? Every time you do that, you hand over pieces of your joy. And after a while, you wonder why you feel empty. But when you decide that approval is optional, you start living on your own terms. You start saying what's in your heart without fear. You start dressing, speaking, creating, loving in ways that honor you. And suddenly happiness feels lighter because you're no longer carrying the heavy load of everyone else's expectations. You're simply carrying yourself. And that, my friend, is more than enough. Comparison is a thief dressed in disguise. It sneaks in quietly, and before you know it, it has robbed you of your joy, your confidence, and even your gratitude for the life you already have. I know because I've lived in that trap, scrolling through pictures of people who seem to have it all together, wondering why my life didn't look like theirs. I compared my behind-the-scenes struggles to their highlight reel, and every time I came up short. That feeling of a not enough grew louder the more I compared. And let me tell you, there is no happiness in measuring your worth with someone else's ruler. Here's the truth. No matter how much you compare yourself, you will never win. There will always be someone richer, someone slimmer, someone louder, someone softer, someone more polished. And if you let that be the standard, your soul will forever be in second place. Comparison blinds you to your own gifts. It makes you forget that what you bring to the table has its own flavor, its own texture, its own beauty. The world doesn't need you to be a copy of them. It needs you to be the best version of you. Peace is one of the most valuable treasures you will ever own, and yet it's the one thing so many of us give away too easily. We hand it over in arguments that don't matter, in relationships that drain us, in jobs that crush our spirit, and in conversations where we keep explaining ourselves to people who were never listening in the first place. Oh, I had to learn, sometimes the hard way, that protecting my peace is not selfish, it's survival. It's the foundation for happiness, because without peace, joy has nowhere to live. I remember a season in my life where I was saying yes to everything and everyone. If someone needed help, I was there. If they wanted advice, I poured out my energy. If they criticized me, I over-explained myself, trying to prove my worth. I wanted so badly to be accepted and loved that I didn't realize I was sacrificing my own sanity. And I'll be honest with you, peace felt like a stranger. I was exhausted, resentful, and constantly on edge. It wasn't until I drew my first boundary that I tasted freedom. Protecting your peace means understanding that not every battle is yours to fight. You don't need to clap back at every insult. You don't need to answer every phone call. You don't need to show up for every invitation. Sometimes peace looks like silence. Sometimes peace looks like walking away. And sometimes peace looks like saying no without guilt. When you guard your peace, you start noticing how much lighter life feels. The drama that used to consume you no longer has a seat at your table. The people who thrive on chaos stop knocking because they realize you won't open the door. Protecting your peace doesn't mean you don't love others. It means you love yourself enough to choose calm over. Happiness grows in the soil of peace. When your mind isn't cluttered with noise, you can hear your own intuition more clearly. You can dream bigger, create more, and love deeper. Peace gives you space to breathe, to reflect, to recharge. It gives you the strength to face life without being swallowed by it. I want you to imagine for a moment that your peace is like a bank account. Every time you argue needlessly, every time you overextend yourself, every time you let someone else's negativity invade your space, you're making withdrawals. But when you rest, when you pray or meditate, when you laugh, when you disconnect from toxic energy, you're making deposits. And just like a real bank account, if you keep withdrawing without depositing, eventually you'll be bankrupt. That's why protecting your peace isn't optional. It's essential. So I encourage you today, guard your peace like the priceless jewel it is. Put boundaries in place. Be mindful of who you allow into your inner circle. Choose your battles wisely. And remember, the more you protect your peace, the more room happiness has to flourish. Peace is not a luxury. It's the home where your joy lives. Perfection is one of the heaviest masks you will ever wear. It convinces you that if you can just get it all right, say the right thing, look the right way, act the right part, then maybe you'll finally be enough. But perfection is a trap because the finish line keeps moving. The more you chase it, the further it runs. What I discovered on my own journey is that happiness doesn't live in perfection. Happiness lives in authenticity. When you give yourself permission to be real, raw, and unapologetically you. For years, I thought I had to present myself as flawless. I believed if people saw my cracks, my mistakes, my struggles, they wouldn't respect me. So I polished my words, hid my pain, and pretended to be stronger than I felt. On the outside, it looked good. On the inside, I was crumbling. The pressure of being perfect was suffocating me, and the moment I chose to be authentic, when I stood on a stage and admitted I don't have it all together, but I'm committed to growing, that was the moment people leaned in closer. That was the moment I realized authenticity connects where perfection isolates. See, perfection creates distance. When someone looks too flawless, we admire them, but we don't always feel safe with them. But authenticity, that's where trust is built. That's where relationships deepen. That's where real happiness starts, because you no longer have to perform. You just get to be. And isn't that what we all crave? To exhale, to be seen, and to know that even with our flaws, we are still enough. Authenticity means showing up in your truth, even when it's messy. It means saying, this is who I am today, without apology. It means embracing your imperfections as part of your story instead of evidence that you're on. Happiness grows when you can look in the mirror and love the reflection, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. I remember a woman coming up to me after one of my talks with tears in her eyes. She said, "Elisa, I didn't connect with your success. I connected with your struggle." That moment shifted everything for me. People don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. Your cracks let the light through, and your vulnerability gives others permission to take off their own mask. So I want you to think about the energy you spend trying to look perfect, trying to say all the right things, trying to avoid judgment. Now imagine redirecting that energy towards simply being true. Imagine how light you'd feel if you didn't have to pretend. That freedom is what authenticity brings, and that freedom is where happiness lives.